Hi, welcome to MGMT11109 Introduction to Management for Week 5. This is the Week 5 video, and we're looking at establishing and maintaining stability and continuity. A very important management skill and something that we're going to investigate through looking at the internal process model. Just before we get started, I'd like to say a big congratulations to Rena Evans. Rena, you're doing some great work on the forums there, and I see that you've posted your responses to the teaching notes and to the assessments or the assignments that are to be done each week to develop your competency. So that's great. So have a look at Rena's response there, see if you've got something that you'd like to say as well to that. Also, I'd like to say a big thank you to Diana Moores as well. Diana posted a forum post regarding the perfect paragraphs, and that's something I endorse, and have a look at Diana's work there and her investigations face-to-face with the Academic Learning Centre. Now, I'm absolutely aware that some of you can't access the Academic Learning Centre face-to-face. That's why I've provided the material that Diana would have seen electronically on the Moodle page. So firstly, if you have a look at research skills in the important information block in Moodle, and then in week 3 there is using Discover It to find research and paragraph writing. So week 3 has the information about using Discover It and paragraph writing, and that feeds into research skills, which is in the important information section, and those will be necessary skills for you to develop to produce your perfect paragraphs. Naomi is a student who's having some problems with that, and so I've arranged a personal phone call with her today to discuss that. So if you need that sort of help as well and you'd like me to give you a call, just shoot me an email. We'll find a mutually agreeable time and we'll discuss the perfect paragraphs further over the phone to give you that help you need to produce the result that's required. Alright, so let's have a look at the lecture for this week, and we're firstly going to start with the internal process model. And we're going to work through its assumptions and goals, its paradoxes and its competencies, which is really about control. So let's have a look and break down the model. So the internal process model has a series of model assumptions and goals. Its criteria of effectiveness, how it would be considered to be a success and effective, is if it provides stability and continuity. Stability and continuity are significant goals for this particular model. When you use it, this is what you're trying to achieve. Means ends theory, so this is looking at the ends that you are trying to achieve with the theory, or with the model, applying the model, and it's about routinization. And there is a belief in the model that if you have routine, it will lead to stability, and that human beings appreciate routine, and this leads to stability in the organization. The action imperative is control, as I discussed before, and its emphasis is on defining responsibility, saying your responsibility is this. You'll need to look at this. You'll need to make sure that these things are measured, that you achieve this KPI, that you are in charge of that, and it's your responsibility if there is any problems in achieving that for our organization. So let's say that an airline might have the internal process model operating in some sectors of its business, and it would like stability and continuity. So they measure on-time arrivals and on-time departures, and they would have responsibility keyed in to certain key strategic people in the organization to achieve that on-time departure, on-time arrival of planes. Measurement and documentation are really important for this model, so there's going to be significant record keeping and significant documentation of the outcomes. So that means a lot of electronic work, a lot of record keeping, a lot of calculation of KPIs, calculation of success. And its culture is really a hierarchy. So there are people at the top and there are more people at the bottom. Think of a pyramid when we're thinking hierarchy here. that you're going to have steps in the chain, that it's not appropriate to go right to the senior person who's in charge. You have an immediate supervisor. You should discuss things with that supervisor first, and then that supervisor will escalate any problems or concerns to their supervisor. There's a definite structure, a definite hierarchy that's involved when you're using the internal process model as a manager. However, it does give rise to some paradoxes, and there are paradoxes of control. Employees can resist or rebel this control, this attempt to solve problems, this attempt to deliver performance through record keeping. It can lead to a lot of resistance from employees and subordinates. Attention to detail can sometimes overwhelm the true goal. So all this record keeping is resource intensive and requires a lot of maintenance, and it can overwhelm the true goal of trying to achieve efficiency and effectiveness. And daily activities may undermine new initiatives. So daily activities and problems that come up on a day-to-day basis can undermine the introduction of new ways of doing things, more efficient ways of doing things, and this can be a problem that leads to atrophy, where the organisation doesn't change and the organisation doesn't innovate. So control core competencies, what are we thinking about here? Well, it's really important that we have core competencies, and that the manager is very good at organising information flows, and organising is one of the 4 elements of management, one of the key learning outcomes for this course. Working and managing across functions is very important. You've got to be able to drill down into the detail to understand what the problem is. Planning and coordinating projects is vital. Measuring and monitoring performance and quality is a key competency that you need to develop as a manager with the internal process model. And there's a graphic there of a tape measure. I can't think of a better graphic. Lots of measuring goes on in the internal process model. Encouraging and enabling compliance, so finding out the problems of why things can't be achieved, and then encouraging and motivating people to see those goals as their goals so that they achieve them. So managers who focus on internal control know the details of activities in their units. They get the right people at the right place at the right time. Plan and structure tasks to optimize workflows. They have an understanding of how efficiency is achieved and how structure is used to achieve that efficiency. They're very good at analysing data to evaluate performance, and they're very comfortable looking at spreadsheets with data that's been collected and interpreting that data and providing solutions from that data in terms of strategies and what direction to pursue. And they rely on rules to guide their behaviour. They're very, very comfortable with policy and very comfortable with procedures, and you'll find in these organisations, or when this internal process model is being used, that you'll have a policy and procedures manual, that there will be guidelines for you to follow. All right, so the primary tensions are internal focus. It's very internally focused, the internal process model, and there is a lot of weight placed on stability and the use of stability or the strategic outcome of stability in the management environment. It's very highly prized. So flexibility and external focus, less important. All right, so let's have a look at how information flows are organized. So using TRAF to manage information flows. So I just wanted to get the textbook to show you. On page 112, you'll find the TRAF model. And TRAF is an acronym for Toss, Refer, Act and File, and you'll find that in the textbook on page 112. You'll see that there. All right, so have a look at the TRAF model. Toss, Refer, Act and File. That's a very important way to manage information and develop those skills, those competencies that come up later in the chapter. Particularly when you're directing your own data information traffic, the application on page 118. All right, so let's have a look at prioritizing action items. So how do you decide what's important, what's not important? it's very important that you look at the information flows that you're receiving into your job, into your organization, and say, is it a strategic priority or not a strategic priority? If it is a strategic priority, then it's very important that you act on the outcomes that are required from you. If it is not a strategic priority, then you may need to deal with that in another way. Then you need to decide if something is urgent. Should you do that immediately, or should you delay that to a later time because of the priorities attached to the particular action item? Those decisions can be made very easily once you determine importance and urgency, and those two can come in tandem. Perhaps it's from your boss, and your boss requires something. I would consider that to be on the urgent list and get that back to him or her as soon as possible. Importance, I think you have to look at that in terms of the strategic planning documents that you would have read and the induction to your position, or asked around about what is important, and have an understanding of the culture of your organization and what is important to people. All right, so let's have a look at communicating clearly, concisely, and completely. Very important to have a look at this other model, OABC, and that's about open communication. Open on a positive note and identify yourself in any communication. Provide a clear agenda for where your message is going. Be concise and complete in the body of your message, and close with a clear request and a specific deadline and a cordial comment. So what's a cordial comment? Well, something like, have a great day, or something else along the lines of, it's been great that you've contacted me. So things like that that end on a positive note, and that people understand that you have received their communication openly and honestly and responded as such. So open, agenda, body, close. Really, really important for communicating clearly, concisely, and completely in response to urgent or important information. So working and managing across functions. Well, as a manager today, you have many different areas where you need to have a little bit of speciality. So accounting, manufacturing, marketing, and HR. Something a manager will have an understanding of, to not at perhaps an expertise extent where you're a member of professional associations representing these areas of business, but you certainly understand how these specialized areas work and what their functions and goals are. So cross-functional teams, this is happening more and more. Certainly when I started my career, there were less cross-functional teams than there are now. And cross-functional teams are people who are drawn together with many different areas of specialization. So let's say you're working in an engineering firm, you might work with scientists, you might work with engineers, you might work with economists and accountants. And they'll all be drawn into a team to solve a particular client problem at one particular point in time. So what can be challenging about working across functions with cross-functional teams? Well, I think the most important thing here that we want you to understand is that they may not be specialists in working in teams, and you as a manager will have to bring them together. Perhaps you might have to pass on some techniques about developing good teamwork, about being open and honest and ethical in your communications, and about being important to be a team listener as well as a team leader. And is functional diversity always beneficial to cross-functional teams? Well, diversity is great, and diversity certainly is creative, but it can lead to conflict when people from diverse cross-functional teams come together to solve problems. And that conflict needs to be dealt with in a positive way. And in the course you will have seen that, looking at conflict management and how best to deal with conflict in a positive way. Working across functions is great in terms of the creativity and that diversity brings, and the positivity that it can bring to an organisation and the way that it can bind people together, but you have to be aware of that conflict that can initially come or be present throughout cross-functional teams working together. And with that, you need to understand that there are positive ways to deal with that conflict. All right, so let's have a look at the key guidelines for managing cross-functionality. Well, it's important to set clear goals and get buy-in from members. It's really important that people see the goals, that they have an opportunity to comment on those goals, to understand why those goals are necessary, and from time to time change those goals. They must feel that they're in charge of the work that they do in certain contexts. But if that's not possible, then it must be clearly communicated, and you have to develop a great leadership style which will allow people to respect you, even if they think that you are not going in the right direction initially. You'll certainly have to use a lot of skill in order to lead those people to a successful outcome. Accountable. It's very important that members are accountable for their performance. Very important that the goals are outlined, that measurement is set out and saying this is what's considered success, this is what's considered failure. Select as small a team as possible, but no smaller than what is required to do the job. So small teams are easier to manage than large teams, but you do not want to scrimp or not include a particular specialization to get the job done. Update the team regularly with relevant information about how things are going, about what performance is expected, about the success of the strategy and goals, and how far you are from achieving those goals. Train team members to work and process management decisions so that they can understand them and change their direction when necessary. Clarify expectations. So if people have concerns, create an environment where they can come to you and discuss those concerns, and you can clarify any expectations that people have. And you need to think outside for functional roles. Encourage thinking outside of functional roles. So if you've got a HR manager, ask them to think about marketing and how that could be done. These are very creative people that you'll have working for you, and you want to encourage that creativity. The other thing that I would say about leadership style is that it's very important to celebrate the success when the goals are achieved, and that celebration of success is something that a lot of people in business don't do enough of, in my opinion. So leadership is really, really important here. All right, so it's important to pick people who lift others and have energizing relationships with other people. It's important for management to recognize those people who are change makers in an organization and say to those people, I really like what you're doing here. You encourage positivity. You encourage other people to work hard like you work. So energizing relationships are really central to getting successful outcomes, goals achieved. So encourage those people who lift others to be part of a team and to exhibit that motivational factor in the way that they work. All right, that's all of the slides for this week. I hope you have a great week, and thank you very much to Diana, and have a look at the great work that Rena is doing as well. If you're concerned with the perfect paragraphs, don't hesitate to send me an email or phone me, whatever your preference. All right, have a great week. Bye-bye.